tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Thank you for joining me today at Recovery TV. My guest today is Rico Warren. Rico Warren, remember this name. And he's with the Coastal Wellness of New England. And Rico and I became friendly because of the actions that he does in the recovery community about putting people in recovery housing. Recovery housing is a safe place for individuals to get their lives back on track, to go out and get a job, be clean, and move along. Rico, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, John.
So there's been a lot of talk about recovery housing over the past few years. A lot of my viewers don't know what recovery housing is.
Okay.
A lot of people are looking for a safe place when they get out of treatment. So tell us what recovery housing is and tell us about your recovery house that you have, and I believe is it East Providence?
Yes.
East Providence.
East Providence. So recovery housing, as you said, is a safe place for people to get back and be able to work on themselves, to possibly getting back with their families or getting back with their loved ones, however it goes with that. But for me, I am in recovery myself. I've been in recovery since May 3rd, 2011. The road wasn't easy, however, the surrender was easy. I had my opportunity to have a recovery house, which was in Central Falls, right before the pandemic. So I had it for 5 years, and then the pandemic hit. However, I was given an opportunity last year to look into this recovery house that I presently am the director at. And I've been having an opportunity day by day to see people go on with their lives, get their own apartment, do what's suggested for them to do. And, on the other hand, there's some people that just aren't ready, if you will. But I guess that's the nature of the beast. But the recovery house process isn't easy, even for the ones who own them. I would say, because of my experience, it has been where it's an individual basis. So, yeah, just in the overall, I'm looking forward to being of service to those people who really want to get their lives back together.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this question. So we obviously I feed you some folks who are looking for recovery housing. People that are watching the show say, "Oh, what's recovery housing?" Well, it's a safe place. But take me through a conversation with a client that wants to go into your recovery house.
So the first process is I meet up with them at the house, at the location, and walk them through, let them know where they would be presiding if they come to the house. And then I would sit down with them in my office and we would go over what they want to get out of the recovery house. And then we talk about what we offer. And the things that I have zero tolerance, I guess, if you will, or I don't veer off the road, is honest communication, number one, but do your part. If you do your part, things become that much easier. I know from, I'm sorry.
Let me interrupt you. When you do your part, meaning what?
Okay, so mandatory meetings, okay, when you first come in, you have to get back on track. So mandatory meetings for 90 days. And just be kind to your neighbors. I mean, inside the house, that's basic. I don't hit them with too many rules, but that's the basics of what we do so they can get consistent. Because I believe, and only in my experience as well as my process still to this day, is consistency builds confidence. And then once you have the confidence, we can work with other areas of your life, connecting them to, I have a lot of connections as well through my process of recovery with other entities such, if I can mention them.
Yeah, sure.
So East Bay has been, I have friends of mine who I see or have seen from the beginning of my recovery flourish. Anchor Recovery Center was another one where I started with Jim Gillen. And the thing about it is we all have to come together. So if I am to refer, say you come, you asked that question in the beginning, is what is it persistent for them to do? Just go to meetings is what I want you to focus on. If you go to meetings, everything else will take care of itself. And so that's pretty much it. And I try to get them to the right housing, like I said, with mental health, getting a job coach, for that recovery coach, and people that I've been connected to for years and see them doing their recovery. That's the biggest thing too, John.
Right.
You got to do your recovery and be the attraction. It just can't be you directing someone all the way through.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I personally have my network of people. I have people in the faith-based. I just started with that, my church community. And they didn't really understand the community that they serve, right? They say we go and we serve the community. However, you're talking about your community and your church.
Right.
So I've just now, by consistency, is shown them a different part of a community that they thought they were serving. It's not that easy. You just have to be consistent on it. So.
And I have to tell you, because obviously you were nice enough to invite me to your house and talk to the folks. I was very impressed with your food bank that you have there.
Yes.
That you serve parts of East Providence around where your house is.
Right.
The folks, both men and women in the house.
Right.
The cleanliness of the house.
Thank you.
The backyard of the house. It's almost like a hotel atmosphere. And I don't want people to take it the wrong way. Obviously a hotel atmosphere, but there's a hotel with rules. The rules are the bathrooms are to be clean. The TV, where they watch TV, is to be clean. The kitchen is to be clean. You get your meals, you wash your dishes, you vacuum. It's all about job security. And I use that word lightly because they also have to go out and work because it's not for free.
Right.
What you get as a owner operator, I'll use those terms, is the fee that they pay you every week.
Right.
But people need to realize you are the boss. You're the boss. And what you say is gospel in that house. And if you don't follow the rules, what happens?
Wow, you just open up a lot of things. So I don't look at myself as, the boss of the house. I am the leader of the house, right?
That's fair.
So for me, I have guidelines I have to follow as well. So in order for me to be a productive member on the other side of the fence, I have to follow certain guidelines. So if I am coming into the house with just the willingness to want to get my life better, right? And that's what happened almost 12 and a half years ago. A lot more has happened in my life, like beyond my wildest dreams of things, right? But to the facts of, yes, responsibilities, right?
Well, I'm gonna cut you off there
Please
for a second
do.
because we have to go to break. But
Okay.
I want you to think of this word: respect. Respect. We're gonna take a quick break. Rico Warren is my guest today, Recovery Housing in Rhode Island. We'll be right back after these messages.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Rico Warren is my guest today, and he's from the Coastal Wellness of New England, which has a recovery house in East Providence. And Rico, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for what you do. I wanted to go back to the previous conversation about respecting the house.
Okay.
Now, when I came there and spoke to the folks, I was intrigued by the composition that you had in the house. two former military gentlemen,
Yeah.
a couple of moms, a couple of single ladies, a couple of single men.
Right.
But they all seem to have respect for you and the facility. And I know that's a key, because you want to make sure that you have folks that have respect, and it's not something that's just brushed to the side and, you know, the house is dirty and they don't do their part. It's almost like a structured daily event.
Facts. Yes.
Fact?
That's a fact.
All right. Everyone gets a shot.
Yes.
Everyone may get a second shot, but some people may not get a second shot or a third shot. You do court orders
Yes.
in the facility, and I look at you as the conductor of the train,
Thank you.
keeping it on the tracks. Because without your guidance, the folks in your recovery house who probably either relapse, never come back, just walk away. And relapse is part of the sickness. We all know that. You know, and then when they look up to you as someone who's already been down that road of recovery, and now you turn your life around in order to be, I don't know what your title is a house manager
As
or
a director.
a director, whatever you are. But I see this opportunity for folks who come out of residential treatment as a place to have a roof over their head. They're not sleeping in their cars anymore. To get their lives back on track, to follow the rules. Because if you don't follow the rules, the consequences could be catastrophic to a individual, that they're back out on the street, back sleeping in their car, but at least you're giving them an opportunity. Now, if I remember correctly, you have 8 beds, 12 beds?
Yes, so there's altogether 10 beds in the house. So back to referring to what you were saying, catastrophic is kind of like a simple word. The reality is that people die if they go back out. That's just the nature of the beast. However, I always thought by living it is how you become the example. Just like in my recovery, I can say, oh, I have all these years of recovery, but I'm still doing some character defectual things. Or I own a recovery house. I could own a recovery house, but my house is falling out inside. This is something that I made a commitment to. All my kids are grown up. I still have some of them that struggle. I'm no different than the next person. That's one thing. However, for me, I'm very cautious on who I put in my network, right, John? And that's why they're like my kids. And I have to screen people if I have commitments come in. You mentioned about our VA, a couple of VA guys we have there. It was funny because one of the gentlemen you met, I believe, came to me when he first came there and says, oh, you know, I was a commander in the Navy. And I looked him straight. It's about being honest, right? I told you, my first rule is honest communication. So I looked at him, and I already got a little briefing on him before he came. And I says, well, I'm the commander of this ship. And he just took back, and he said, oh, I'm only going to be here for a few months, and then I'm going to get my own place. But he came to me at around that few months, and he says, I'm just going to hang it out for a little bit and see where it takes me. This is a commander of a huge battleship. It really doesn't matter how much you have, who your connections were, what you've done in the past. I'm not worried about all that. It's how can I help you now moving forward. That's it.
You know, it's ironic that you can have someone who's a custodian, or you could have someone who's just coming out of the Navy that used to be a commander on a huge ship
Absolutely.
and everything in between.
Absolutely.
You know, the drugs have no sense of who they're dealing with.
That's right.
You know, and what I see is we need more recovery houses, more structured recovery houses. We need someone like you to be the head of recovery houses to make sure that people follow the rules. Now we've gotten many calls at the Leadership Council about recovery houses that are not following the rules and just in it for the money. They're not in it to win it for the folks. And that's why we'll be putting in legislation next year to get these recovery houses straight and get them in line. And you know, I took the state to your facility.
Absolutely.
They were very much impressed. And we need more of the recovery houses that you have compared to what's basically on the street and people actually taking advantage of these people who are sick.
And I want to just touch base real quick, Johnny, on that. It's not easy, right? And we all understand that, especially when it comes to the disease of addiction, right? However, everybody's heart is in the right place. It's just, and we just started with RICARES. They formed a advisory board, right? I for some reason, I don't know, I like to be in face. I like to be face to face. They had it on Zoom, and it was just disruptions somewhere I couldn't connect to or stay connected. So what I'm saying is everybody has the right intentions. We just have to put it all in the pieces of the puzzle. And you're right, there are some who just get into like profit, right?
You're not doing the person who's in recovery any justice by doing that. And I want to talk more about that when we come back. We're going to take a break.
Absolutely.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni, here with Rico Warren, talking about recovery housing in Rhode Island. We'll be right back after these messages.
Now back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Recovery housing is on the docket today. Rico Warren is my buddy and is with the Coastal Wellness in New England. Has a beautiful house in East Providence and has multiple male and female clients in there. I want to talk about community. Does the community work? Is the community working together? That's the $64 question. I'm not in the trenches. I'm answering the phone, getting people out of trouble. You're in the trenches.
I've come up with the phrase of teamwork makes the dream work. I'm not going to say that it isn't working. In certain areas it may be. I just think that we could do a little better servicing the ones who are in the trenches, right? Because we kind of forget that we're in recovery too, and we may take on more than we can handle, right? And I've had friends of mine who were in those positions die.
Yeah.
So it's kind of where I brought it with that. Yes, so in the community, I'm not here to say that they're not doing it. They show up every day, they do their job to the best of their ability, just like I do. I'm no better than the next. However, we need to really just consistently come together.
Consistency, that's what we need.
That's consistency.
We got a break. Thank you so much for coming on today. Love to have you back.
it.
You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni, Rico Warren, and Recovery Housing in Rhode Island. We'll see you next week.